is Friday. It is just gone 4 o'clock only just. Yes, we were reading the comments rather than coming online. Good afternoon, world, and hello, Reverend Tony.
Hello, dear. Hello. Yes, everybody, we were online. We weren't running late. We were preparing something for today's episode, show, whatever you want to call it. And I do like the idea of mugs with our mugs on. Kaz's
conversation, yes.
Yeah.
So for those that have missed it or are coming in from a different stream and haven't seen that particular conversation, it was debated that the logo's the wrong way around, that the faces should be the other way around because it doesn't match what we do today, but we should have our mugs on mugs because that's another different merchandising opportunity, to which our Tony, who does the t-shirts, was very, 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 very upset. Well, I say that, he said, "Oh no," in other words. But the conversation was long and deep before we'd even come online, even before the time had actually hit. But that is just, it's brilliant, isn't it, Tony? It really, really is.
Absolutely phenomenal. It's way over and above what Nick or myself could have imagined many months ago when we first thought, oh, do you think they might go for fortnightly rather than monthly?
I know. And now we get in trouble if it's not weekly, you know.
I know.
It's brilliant.
Can I just say, just to sort of, and thank you from the world of spirit, they just started to push us in a certain direction, because they've just made me want to say, can I just say, this is what our way of life is about. It's about building a community, about bringing people together. It's about cohesiveness. It's about like-mindedness, respect, and just stop being a Richard. Just be nice to each other. Stop being pillocks and just let's get together and get building and reaching out to more people to spread that kindness and spread that joy.
Building bridges rather than putting toll booths on them. That kind of thing, you know.
Yes. Or actually just taking them down altogether.
Or just taking the bridges all together down, absolutely, and blowing them up with people on them. For those that are watching, you can probably guess that Nick's got a bee in his bonnet and has stirred up a hornet's nest up in Rotherham. It's not very often that I do, but I am going to hold my words and I'm going to keep my peace and keep my calm for the moment. Because, you know, we've still got to say hello to people first.
We have.
That is the community side of it as well.
It is. I think they're just sort of agreeing that it is something we've got to broach.
I think so too.
Oh, Daryl. I don't know if you get both of our Daryl Golby.
I see.
I don't think you get both of our mugs on a jog.
No, nor under. You might manage one face on each cheek, but I think the camera icon in the middle would probably be badly placed.
Yes, I think it could be.
I think mugs will stick to, you know.
Yeah. The comments are lovely. I wish people could see all of the comments that are going up, because we're gonna
try and do a quick summary.
Before we say all the hellos.
So let's go from the beginning. It began with Kazza being in the house and Tony saying hello, and then Kazza went on a rant about the Spiritline picture being not right because it was the wrong way round. This then led to a conversation about the fact that Kazza is actually bored and waiting for us. Kazza was then agreed with by Dawny, saying that it was a bit off balance and should be the other way around, and that I need to work my magic. But I can't do it on all the t-shirts. So, you know, you've got two choices. You can either stay it, or we could do that. There we go. So we hope that has solved the problem. And then Daryl came in and said hello and joined in, switched them round. So we've switched this. I don't think we need to buy new T-shirts anymore because that's probably fixed it a little.
I think so.
But with all of these conversations coming on, it should be important to say hello to all of you who joined in on that conversation, but also to hello, Tony. And I'm sure Eunice is in the background there.
Yeah. Shelley Stewart commented from Facebook. Hello. I think she put an icon because I can just see a little square.
Yeah, it doesn't always translate does it?
It doesn't. And then we had a Facebook user, which could be Eunice.
Could be. If it's not, let us know who you are.
Yes.
And then there's Paul and Luke. Good to see you again.
Sherry Ann.
Hi, Cherry. Cherry knows where I'm going today because we was talking about it earlier when she was in the one-to-one with me. So she knows. Then we got another Facebook user that said good afternoon to all. So
yes, and Jen Stevenson said good afternoon, everybody. So
everybody, yeah.
My brain was about 5 minutes in front of my mouth then.
I know the feeling. Janet Saunders, hi to you both. Hello to you.
Lisa Checkley, hi to you, my dear.
Muggy Mugs from Facebook user. We'll avoid the conversation about underwear.
Yeah.
Where am I at? So that then brings me to
Anne-Marie Corver. Hello, my dear. How are you?
Oh dear. I don't know whether that's about the mugs or the underwear.
Oh no.
We'll have to find out later on in the conversation.
We will. I've no doubt we'll find out.
Absolutely. Crystal Hayward, hello to you.
And hello to Michael, who's just behind this here screen. Made on the bed.
Sheila Martin, good to see you.
Now we're getting criticised for having it this way around.
Yeah. Can't win sometimes.
No, it's best not to try sometimes, isn't it?
Thanks, Shelley. My mum is Facebook user. Hello, Mum.
Oh, hello, dear. And hello to Emily Sims. Indeed, and Emily, I haven't been to Brimington for a long time.
Have to rectify that.
Oh, well.
And Julie Caswell was one of the other Facebook users that we mentioned earlier. Nice to see you, Julie. Welcome.
And hello, Jackie.
Lacroix. Going to say anybody who's watched Absolutely Fabulous would be under pain of death not to be able to pronounce that name.
Lacroix. Yeah. And Jen Stevenson, I've corrected it since.
Oh yeah, it doesn't. The corrections don't feed through to us, babe.
No.
Oh dear, mugs and underwear.
Oh dear, no. He's definitely not asleep, as Michael's just said. I'm asleep. No, I can hear him sneezing.
Yeah. Gonna say I did. You can't type asleep if you're asleep.
No, you can't. You can't at all. And Krish, hello there, matey.
Hi, Krish. Good to see you, my darling. And yeah, it's for both, mate.
Yeah.
We're actually catching up now because here he is. He's on time this week.
He is. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, mate.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, are we going to go for it?
We've caught up with the hellos. Mum's fixed her name. She's fixed her name. And Christine Davis joins us.
Yes.
Christine, good to see you. Hello to everyone who said hello and engaged in a community-driven conversation. And thank you to everyone who is watching and hasn't said hello. Sarah, do only certain comments get through? No, they all get through, that we know of. Sometimes there's glitches in Facebook, which means that certain posts and certain pages where the comments are being made might not reach us. But for the most part, pretty much everything does feed into our main screen and we can see them. Depending on the cleanliness of the conversation, we sometimes don't bring them all up in evidence. However, you've already seen a conversation about underwear and jocks with our faces on them, so you know that we're pretty open to any kind of conversation, really. Welcome, Sarah. I don't know whether you've commented before and they haven't come through, but they're coming through now.
I think what Sarah might mean is, if Sarah is logged onto your Facebook feed, people who comment off my Facebook feed, she won't see the comments unless we put them on screen.
Yes, that too.
Because we split the feed into two, half broadcasts onto my feed and half broadcasts onto Nick's, and people who comment from my feed won't be seen on Nick's feed and vice versa. So we try and put up as many as we can and include as many conversations as we can on screen. So never fear, we can see you.
So saying hello again, hello again. Yeah. Oh, here we go. It's beginning. I will just quickly say hello to Chrissy Wheatley. Hiya, darling. Because the question has been asked by Jackie. What's on the menu today?
Drum roll.
Right. So I have kept my peace, kept my head out of it as much as I possibly could for the benefit of all of humanity and my own sanity. But sometimes the requirement to stand up and speak outweighs the concern of being told to sit down and shut up. As a very important friend of mine said to me yesterday, just because people don't listen does not invalidate the words that you speak. It just builds your own character when you have the courage of your own convictions. And I know many people watching today will have felt like that in their life, that you don't feel that you can speak because you don't feel necessarily that it's your place, or that something about you excludes you from that conversation. But I have got to say that there are times when I have to stand up and be counted. And I very much look forward to hearing the opinions of those watching. And I know that it's usually Tony that would jump on this particular topic more than myself. But for me to be the one to be weighing in with my size 9s, fully laced up and with the steel toe caps on, hello dad, must mean that there is something pretty damned wrong in the world. And I have to say that we are told as religious people, are we not, Tony, that we should keep out of politics. And the respectful thing for that to be is that religion would keep out of politics would keep out of religion. We know, based on the work that we do within the communities that we build and the communities that we are a part of, that there is a very strong middle ground where those two particular edges of social interaction, that of religion and politics, do interact and do very much cross over and overlap. And I am more than happy to keep my oar out of the political side of it, so long as the political side of it does its part. Yeah. When it doesn't, I will stand up and have my say. Now, I've got to say, right from the offset, for a long part of my life, please don't switch off and hate me until you've finished hearing what I've said. But for a long part of my personal life, which is very private and I don't very often share this information, I have been a member of the Conservative Party. because I believe in the unity, the free trade, the ability for people to own their own property and build themselves up to be more than they are. And so long as that was the core of what that party represented, I was comfortable to an extent being a member of it. But I am now in a position where I feel that I and those like me are being segregated, separated, and isolated from that political party. Let's put it this way. When it comes to the difference between discrimination and persecution, such things are very different based on where you live. You can experience discrimination and still be protected, but in actual fact you can not be persecuted and it not be misinterpreted. Knowledge and understanding is the difference between knowing the difference between such things as discrimination and persecution. And there are and should be laws that protect people, not just of the LGBTQ community, but all communities united together under the protections that the law provides, that we are all able to be ourselves without being segregated, separated, and damaged by those that we hope are there to protect us. And so long as that job is being done, I'll keep my mouth shut. It is not being done. I've got to say that in this climate in which we're living, we need our leaders to stop promoting discriminatory and unwelcome ideologies, because we don't pay politicians to wave banners of hatred and segregation and waltz with extremist separationist views. That is why I personally have ended my personal association with the Conservative Party, because I expect politicians to focus on protecting the rights of those in need and cutting bigotry and rebuilding the confidence and courage in our leadership, and not playing politics to score points. This is very much what is going on right now in the world, where you have got people in authority being and feeling very confident to espouse and spout their ridicule and their hatred and their lack of sympathy and understanding. And when the political world does not express sympathy, I will step in and say, I will come and talk within your political boundaries. In other words, if you piss in my tent, I will piss in yours. And I'm sorry to be so rude and blunt, but that is how very, very angry and frustrated as an individual I am right now. We as religious people are here to help to build communities. And you cannot do that when those that you choose as your leaders rip down communities, rip down associations, and harm those that we call brothers and sisters of this earth. So whilst this is going on, I will stand up and have my say and be counted, because it is my duty as a representative of the human race and kindness and compassion to make my words heard. I apologize if I offend anybody by what I have said, but I do not apologize for saying it, and I do not apologize for making use of technology and my position to encourage kindness, help, and love. Compassion is what gets us out of grief, not segregation. And if our leaders do not ever stand up to that yardstick, we will be, as spiritual individuals, here to make that statement, to make ourselves heard, and be ready to be part of that conversation. Everyone has a right to their opinion, but that means so do I. So thank you all for listening, and God bless you all.
I have to throw my support behind every word Nick's just said, because we do not choose our political leaders to stand up and spout BS. It's horrendous, and some of the statements I've heard in the House of Commons today are horrendous. Well, over the last few days have been horrendous. And it, like we said at the beginning, the thing is, we want to build bridges between communities, not take the bloody bridges down and blow them up while people are still crossing them. It's just not on. And I do think we've got to make our voices heard. And I think as spiritual people, spiritual leaders, it is our duty to say, hang on, it's not right. We should be promoting love, compassion, brotherhood, sisterhood, humanity, not hatred and difference and otherness. It's just wrong. Jen's wondering what
yeah.
News.
Jen's in a caravan up north, having well, I would say a sunny time, but she was under the storm Agnes. She was under storm Agnes. So basically, a very senior member of a aforementioned political party that is in government right now has been espousing some very discriminatory and persecutory statements about same-sex relationships, the LGBT community, applying that to immigration, and basically has just been playing politics, which, considering over a week ago she told the police that they were not allowed to do so, is actually quite an affront to those that have actually experienced persecution rather than discrimination. I've got to say, as a member of a very reasonably forward-thinking community, I have experienced discrimination but not persecution. But I am one of the lucky ones, and we cannot apply discrimination to persecution because our perspectives in this country are very different. We are an open and welcoming, for the most part, community in this country in comparison to certain other countries. 10 years ago, if I were to walk hand in hand with a man down the street, I might get a smack round the head, I might get a brick through my window, or might get some nasty stares, and things might not have been done about it. But there are countries where you even mention what I've just said and you will be put to death. That is persecution, not discrimination. And that means people who are persecuted under the law have a right to seek help from a place that should be forward thinking. Yeah. But unfortunately, the attitudes, as you said before we started, Tony, is taking us back a century.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is utterly disgraceful that someone who is of a religious nature, who does try and keep the balance, should feel the need to get on a soapbox about this. It's 2023, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I know you mentioned it earlier, that in a speech last week, she said about we do not pay police to wave banners, wave flags and dance with drag queens. The thing is, the LGBTQIA community has had a rocky relationship with authority for many, 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 many years. And it's only over the last few years you've seen wonderful, wonderful images of policemen patrolling the London Pride event, doing the YMCA with the rest of the crowd and stuff, which is wonderful to see. And now she's saying, oh, they shouldn't be doing that. We're not paying them to dance with drag queens and wave flags. It's, for goodness sake, it's just so wrong. It's divisive at its very core. It's very, very divisive. And yes, thank you for all of the comments that are going up. It's been
I've got to say thank you all for bearing with me while I got off my chest. Usually, and me and Tony discuss this, usually it is Tony that would take the lead on such conversations, but I think it speaks volumes that I wouldn't say I pulled rank, because I don't do that, but the fact that I wanted to be the one to jump in first and say it should be very telling.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and, you know, this
Very
is
much.
the reason why. Krish, thank you so much for that. Here in South Africa, homosexuality is a no-no, especially amongst the Indian community. My best friend is gay. His family doesn't accept him, and he goes through so much. And in certain countries in Africa, not as many as there used to be, but in certain countries in South Africa, I do believe it also carries with it a weight of 8 years in prison. You may be able to correct me if I'm outdated on that, Chris, but thank you for your comment, because it does underpin that there is a problem. John Parry says, why shouldn't the police join in? They're human, unlike our politicians. I've got to say, I'm inclined to agree with that, because there is, you know, one of the greatest things about the police force in its history was that it was community policing, community involvement, getting to know the people that they are there to protect. And what was said basically undermined the whole understanding of community policing, in my view.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just to share a little bit of my personal history, my dad was a bobby on the beat in County Durham, in a small mining village, right through the miners' strike, which was very interesting. Going to secondary school in another mining community. And my dad used to walk up and down the streets and go into all of the pubs and police service, not a police force, and stand with the guys who'd worked down the mines, who'd been on the picket lines in the morning, and have a conversation with them and a drink with them and build that community relationship up, which is absolutely what it should be. It should not be, well, we'll all stand linking arms, arm in arm, while everybody else is dancing the YMCA and everything else and look serious and stuff. No, join in, be part of the community, break down those barriers, open conversations. That's what we're all about as the ISA, and it's what we're all about as the Rainbow Project, which is building community. That's what the plus for me is at the end of the LGBTQIA plus. It's and everybody else.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to come to the party, come party, because that's what we want. It's galling that these people are doing this in our name, which is wrong, 1,000 miles wrong. And yeah, I could go further, but I think I would start getting into trouble if I kept going.
Yeah, I mean, I went further than I normally do, but I still had to pull myself back, because
I can feel it. I can
Yeah.
feel it, because it's something I'm very, very passionate about, is building community. It's about reaching out to people, bringing people closer to you, and not, I mean, we did a talk at the place where our son works for their Pride Month thing, I think it was. And Michael said about tick the little box that says other, like male, female, other. You know, nobody wants to be other. We want to be part of something. And for our politicians to be breaking these things down and saying, oh, no, but we welcome everybody except for you.
Yeah.
You know, and unless you're at risk of being put to death in your country for who you fall in love with, you're not welcome here. How galling is that? The fact that you may face a prison term for it is irrelevant. Unless you are in fear of your life, you're not welcome here. Go away.
Yeah.
How wrong is that in 2023? How wrong is that?
I've got to say, reading the comments is a huge balm for me, because the sense of compassion and community and unity that I am reading from all of you, from Paul, from Daniel, from Anne-Marie, from Lisa, from Facebook users aplenty, from Jen, from Kaz, all the way up, Dawny, John, Krish, Anne-Marie, I've already said Anne-Marie, I'll say it again, Jen, from Adrian, from Cherry, from Daryl, from Jackie, from Julie, all of you. The words that I am reading is a combination, yes, of some really negative experiences that you and your friends have experienced, but also the compassion that you all have as individuals shows that there is still a wonderful world out there. And as I was reminded by someone earlier on, we need to stand in unity, not in violence, but in compassion and kindness, and shine that light out to the world and actually teach these bigots a lesson in compassion, because I don't give up on anybody. I don't feel hate towards anybody, because if I did, I'd be becoming that which I hate, which is separation and segregation. But you have to be able to feel comfortable and strong enough to stand up and call out ignorance when it is there. And sometimes ignoring it is not enough.
No. And Claire's comments just come up about, I once heard a Home Office worker say, "You hid being gay for 50 years, so what's a few more?"
Yeah.
What do you expect when the person at the top of that organisation is coming out with tripe like been coming out? It's not surprising.
Eunice's comment is absolutely brilliant. There's been a lot of problems with trust in the police force.
Absolutely.
But Eunice's point, it makes the police look human and caring, and politicians are often speaking out of rear ends. It's normally politicians and newspapers that start the problem. And you're right. This is absolutely a beautiful reflection on the police force as on the police service. As I'm reminded, what it is a huge positive reflection on the police service that this is actually having a light shined on it, and says absolutely everything about what John's just said, and that government has a distinct lack of empathy. And
can I go beyond that?
Yeah, please do.
Can I go beyond that, John? It's not a lack of empathy, it's a lack of humanity.
Yeah,
is what it is. It's a lack of humanity. It's seeing other human beings as less than, which I just can't get my head around at all. It's just disgraceful. I was just reading Daryl's. I couldn't read what
Daryl says you should use your position in social media when there is injustice. It's a no-brainer. PCSO is supposed to work with the community, not against it. Absolutely right. And we have a wonderful police officer in South Yorkshire who is their liaison officer, and he's a lovely guy. He's at every Pride event, he's at every diversity, inclusion and equality festival that goes on in the area. He's everywhere, and he's a lovely guy. And unfortunately he's retiring in December, which is devastating, but he has assured us that the person taking over is absolutely wonderful as well, which is really reassuring to hear. But yeah, it's just, it is one I've been shying away from for a while, because I knew if I brought it up, I would just start to go, and I can feel it. My cheeks are getting really hot because I'm feeling so emotional and frustrated about this, because it's to pick up on Anne-Marie's. Do politicians not realise that the communities they are pulling down also have the right to vote? What a way to lose voters. And I'm telling you now, ever since I was old enough to vote, I have voted in the blue box. Not anymore. You know, locally, I am very good friends with a lot of conservative politicians, because they represent what I believe. But I cannot support a party that is tolerating that sort of behaviour in its senior ranks. You know, last year I walked next to a very senior politician who is also my MP, talking wonderful things and wonderful conversations in the Remembrance Sunday parade. He came to Littleport, and he not always a popular one, but he is a very notable public figure now. and he's my local MP. And it was a wonderful conversation and a great opportunity. But I cannot stand by and be a party to that anymore, because I will be part of the problem.
Yeah.
And I do not feel represented, and I do not feel, frankly, in any way respected as a human being right now because of those attitudes. And I've got a pretty decent life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't complain too much. But when I see stuff like that, we talk about the police having to cut crime and fix problems. Well, let's put it this way. Encouraging and empowering homophobia and bigotry is not going to cut crime. It's going to increase it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Just to, yeah, I was just going to say, just to pick up Julie Caswell's point, we know a couple of MPs of all colours who are gay, and you sort of think, how can you sit in the House? Mind you, saying that, just looking at the House on the dates of the speeches we've been talking about, there's not many people in there, so the gay MPs probably aren't there. But to sit there knowing that these senior politicians and senior secretaries of state are calling out and hounding your community, it must take thick skin to sit there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have got to say, in defence of perhaps your local MP and many others, it has been a very cross-party rejection of what's been said on many levels, but I just don't think it will be enough to be heard. No. I would just like to come back to Jen's comment. Perhaps you should tell your MP in words of one syllable how you feel and why you are cheesed off and why you are withdrawing your support. I will say this much. The letter is already drafted. My membership card is in the envelope with it. And there is a specific reason why the words I used earlier were used, because they are in complete counter and reflection to what was used by said individual in the House of Parliament. Just to underpin how cheesed off I am. And I do make it very obvious by doing that. And it is ready to go into the post. There is a personal bit up there in relation to a polite opener to him, but I will and have be sending that off to let him know just how disrespected as a human being I feel, let alone a member of the gay community.
Yeah, it's just horrendous. It really is bad. And yeah, so, unfortunately, Michael, there is a lot of the far right around at the moment. They seem to be rearing their ugly head. And I think this is why it's so important for us to speak these things and speak these truths to people, because not everybody will pick up what's going on. And unless people are aware, it can't. Sorry, I've just seen Facebook users comment to you.
Yeah.
And I will come and visit you, Nick. I will. Send me a slip so I can get in. I'll come and visit you while you're in. But I think I'll be there with you, actually, because it is something I've said this before on this stream, and I will say it again, I've no doubt. I will fight to the death for your right to say what you want to say. We all have the right of freedom of speech in this country. But freedom of speech comes with consequences. Yeah. You cannot stand in as a public figure like these people do, spouting hate and divisiveness, and not expect there to be consequences for your words. And unfortunately, in some cases, those consequences will cost people their lives and livelihoods.
Yeah.
End of.
Yeah.
I know people in our community, the LGBTQ plus community that have tried and have succeeded to end their lives because of narrow-mindedness and bigotry. One lovely lady ended her life a few years ago, and it was so sad. It was tragic. She wasn't an old lady. She was lovely, a trans lady, and she couldn't face it anymore.
Yeah.
Adrienne, things will get reported, yes, love, but how seriously are these things going to be taken when rhetoric like that is coming from the very top of government?
I guess that as much, Mum. I guess that.
What kind of cake, though? That's what I need to know. What kind of cake?
Well, hopefully not cherry. And Anne-Marie, we're in 2023, not 1823. The world has changed. There's not enough hate in the world without so-called. Is there not enough hate in the world without our so-called leaders trying to turn communities against each other? And I've got to say, this might come across like scaremongering, and I don't mean it to be.
It's not.
But I've got to say this. Once they are done with us, who are they going to turn on next? Yeah. Because you see this throughout history. And, you know, you haven't got to go as far back as 1823 to see that when an authoritarian regime attacks and singles out a group, when they are done with them, they move on to another one, and then another one, and then another one. This isn't just about same-sex relationships. This isn't just about LGBT rights. It is about humanity. It is about compassion. It is about openness and freedom and free will and love and respect and kindness. And just because one group is being singled out now doesn't mean that another one won't be next. If we do not stand up and say enough, there is a reason that in history the words never again have great meaning to us as a nation.
It's already started, Nick, because it started with the trans community, then it moved on to the drag community, now it's the gay community. So it's already started. They've shifted their sights already.
Yeah.
They've shifted their sights already. And it's donuts. You wouldn't get a very big file in a donut. I'm sorry, but at the minute, Linda, I need nail files rather than window files because, like, I've got edges. And
don't worry, when she gives me my cake, I'll pass one through the bars.
Fabulous. Yeah, John, you're right. John Parry's just said, you're right about the far right crawling out of their caves. Look at the Ukraine. Yeah, but like, and Michael, I've just noticed Michael's, it's called salami tactics. You start slice by slice.
Dear, oh dear. But I think it's important that we shine a light on the pains of the world, because until people shine a light on difficulty, people cannot stand in adversity.
No.
And stand against, you know, the pains of the world. And regardless of what it is today that's being berated or segregated, there will always be something new, so long as that procession of hatred builds momentum. Because when it gets momentum, it's hard to stop.
Yeah. So
you have to stop that acceleration. You have to stop that weight and force that's behind it.
And you know what for me is the most upsetting thing about all of this, Nick, and not just Nick, everybody that's online as well, is that it's one thing if this was that woman's absolute truth, but it's not. It's a political game because they've got an election in May.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's trying to be popularist, and it's horrendous.
And we can actually look around the world and see the potential risks of popularist politics. look around the world and see how it's changed in the last 10, 15 years, where popularist politics has taken the view. Where popularism and, supposedly speaking for the people, politicians have come in with rhetoric and no substance. They've swam in on a wave of give the people what they want, but they've given the people next to nothing, if not removal. Look at the work that was done for LGBT rights in America that's now being gently unpicked and unstitched, and because of the structure of American politics, the problems that are created in that travel from administration to administration to administration and can't be undone. You've only got to look and this is changing the topic, and this is why I say no groups are safe if bigotry gains momentum. Roe versus Wade is a really, really big one, because I've got to say, as much as I focused on my own personal view, the headlines are not saying about gay asylum seekers. It's about being gay and female is not enough to seek help in this country. That's separating 50% of the world's population. If you are feeling persecuted for your gender, and if the bigots want to dive in on that one, we're actually talking about the one that was assigned at birth as well. I've got to throw that one in because I'm on a roll. But we cannot stand idly by and allow bigotry, because silence and inaction is allowing the hate to burn. We have to at least say our piece.
We do. And just to pick up Claire's point, only 2% of asylum seekers come to the UK because of their sexuality. It's not a huge number, so it's not going to make a difference in the number of cases that they're actually talking about as the problem. And I mean, how audacious is it to use that term about human crisis? We have an immigration problem. It's sickening. It really is. And you just reminded me there, Nick, when you were talking about popularist politics. I remember we were online when a certain incident happened when the American people marched on the White House. We were online that night and we were aghast.
Yes, of course we were. Yes.
We were like, what's going on?
It was a Spiritline, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It was the original version when we were doing it like every so often rather than weekly.
Yeah, about once a month or once every 5 weeks.
Yeah, even if that,
Yeah, and we were sat aghast because we both had the BBC screen on our phones and we were like, have you seen this?
Absolutely. Very important comment here. I know it's slightly moving in direction, but I agree with it completely. Julie Caswell says the sad thing is at the moment we have no political parties worth voting for. I've always been very interested in politics, was a union shop steward. I'm politically homeless at the moment. I'll be honest with you, I feel that way myself.
I do. And do you know the really, really sad thing? Even last election, Michael and I made a pact that if we looked at the ballot sheet and couldn't see anybody we wanted to vote for, we would vote for the guy who looked like they weren't going to get their deposit back. Because it's horrendous. It's really bad. And I am very much like that at the minute, because I've always been quite liberal with a small L.
Yeah.
But there aren't any parties that I think could hold a government and have strong enough policies to get this country to where it needs to be now.
Yeah.
It's just dreadful.
I've got to share Paul's comment.
I was just looking at
And
it.
before I bring it up, I've got to say, if you think that the rest of the world is bad and that we're in a good place, comparatively, yes. But listen to this. As a gay man a few years ago, me and my husband got set about walking home from a pub in Southend. We both ended up in hospital. The police said there were several homophobic incidents that evening. The people who did it never got caught. That is in our own front garden.
Yeah, it is.
That is in our own front garden.
A few years ago, so we're talking 21st century.
Yeah.
So, it just begs the question, what I did make a comment to Nick before we came online about, look, the way things are going, we'll be seeking asylum somewhere else because we won't feel safe in this community, in this country. Yeah. Claire's in the country's safest Labour seat. Yeah. So she votes for the guy, the politician who's not going to get their ticket back.
Yeah. And you know what? I've got very, very weird views on politics, and I don't mind admitting that. I actually mentioned this last night before I'd made the decision to say what I wanted to say today. And I thank you all for your words of support and encouragement. And I thank Tony for allowing me to take the lead on it, because I do usually, Tony is very experienced in the LGBT community when it comes to campaigning and working within the community. I've always been somewhat of an outsider and always kind of sat on the fence and kept quiet and not make any waves and that kind of thing. So for me to, as I said, jump on so quite heftily, I was close to actually cutting up my membership card on screen. That's how angry I was, but I thought that was a step too far, and point scoring like other people, which is why I decided against it. Still tempted though. But I have very weird views on politics, and hear me out on this. And I think this is part of the problem. I love democracy and I embrace democracy. And I think democracy is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But unfortunately, the democracy in this country, as with so many others, is imperfect. It's better than the alternative. Do not get me wrong. And I do not have an answer for this, but I've got to say it. Democracy in this country is an imperfect thing, because what do? Every 4 years, we give away our free will, we give away our independence, and we give away our way of living to a small number of people. But if, like, for instance, the last election, you've got very, very narrow margin of difference. If 51% of people vote for one thing and 49% vote for another thing, technically speaking, only 51% of the population are having their views representative. The other 49 have to sit down, shut up, and put up with it. And that is not pure democracy.
No.
The system that we have is very outdated. It was very much based on two-party politics. I know there's been talk about first past the post and all different formats, but it always get mentioned and never shut down. What we need in the world in which we live is political reform, so that we are better represented in a different way to what we now, because regardless of whether one group is right and one group is wrong, one group is this and one group is that, we give away our freedom. And if we are part of the minority, be that anywhere from 49.5% downwards, we do not have our views represented.
Yeah.
That's democracy. Like I said, it's still better than the alternative.
Yeah.
Way better than the alternative, because at least every 4 years you get the opportunity to say, sorry, you've let me down. Goodbye. But it still is not hugely representative of everyone's right to have their say. Mavis is my new friend from Monday. Hello, Mavis. Good to see you. It hasn't just started. We've been rattling on for about an hour, my love. So I've certainly been rattling on for about an hour.
It feels like it's just started, to be fair.
Gonna say. I think the adrenaline's kind of kicked in. But you're very welcome, Mavis. Nice to see you, my darling.
I agree. It's the best of a bad job that we've got at the moment, and I think at this election we've all going to have to realise that what we've got to try and do is make the least worst decision we can about where we put our cross. But
I will say, if someone wants to stick the money in, for how much, because I ain't got a lot myself, but if someone wants to stick the money in, I'll stand for Parliament.
Yeah. Oh, we should start the ISA party.
Oh, that really would cause some waves, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
But, you know, Daniel, you're right. 100% of the promises made by politicians never come to light. Surely should they lose their positions. If you were in any other job, if you failed to achieve your targets, you would lose your job.
Yep, absolutely.
And there is inequality in that, because the rest of the country has to follow the rules and toe the line. But you can, I mean, let's face it. If I'd have said that when I said what was said this week in the company that I used to work for, I would have been out of a job, and quite rightly so.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Remember, we need photo ID to vote this time. Which is divisive in itself, because not everybody has photo ID.
Yeah, no, my mother-in-law doesn't, because we had that whole argument a couple of months back. She doesn't have photo ID, so she wouldn't have been allowed to. I was only joking about standing for Parliament. This ministry is enough for me, but thank you.
Oh, can you imagine?
Oh God!
Even if we got into opposition, you'd have to sort of sit there opposite them and
yeah. I have to say, you know, it would be great for the spiritual community. I mean, I was kind of happy and overjoyed that for once for the second time in history, a non-Christian became elected or at least appointed. I apologise for that first gafunga boo-boo. Appointed Prime Minister of the country. You know, when it comes to representativeness of religion. But, you know, on the whole scheme of things, religion should be kept out of it. And I shouldn't, as a member of ministry of a religious nature, feel the need to speak on political matters. I shouldn't. I should be focused on the individual needs of those in my congregation. But when I see suffering on a grand scale being promoted, when I see that fire of hatred being stoked, it is my job as a member of ministry to promote the goodwill, the kindness and the compassion that is, in spite of how it's been written and rewritten over the last 2,000 years, part of this, you know. Even the differences of opinion that I'd have with St. Paul, the greatest of these is love. That should be my focus.
Yeah.
Not
absolutely.
Having to make an obvious statement. Mavis, 4 p.m. Fridays.
Yeah.
Every week, so long as we're available. We usually are, unless one of us has got COVID. 4 p.m. Yeah.
Jen, you have a point.
See, we are in tune because I went straight for that button. The Archbishop of Canterbury is always butting in and not always with compassion itself. Not going to disagree.
No, can't. And Daniel, if you believe some of the conspiracy theorists, we've already been microchipped.
Yeah, gonna say, I have actually seen trials of microchipping going on over in Asia, actually, where it's placed in the upper wrist. You know what? I don't think I'd be comfortable with having that easy access to my own money, let alone anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you look back 20, 30 years, there was, even though religion was a big problem for the openness of the LGBT community, and although mistakes were made and issues definitely were still being covered up, the openness of, for instance, John Paul II, in his own way, he made huge progress within religion comparatively to, and this is what we must always do when picking up a book like this, when looking back on history, comparatively to the culture and the norms of the time. Comparatively to the culture and the norms of the time, we're back even further than 1823.
Yeah, we are.
When you look at the law versus spiritualism, it's only, 70 years since the Fraudulent Mediums Act came into place, and we were prosecuted under witchcraft. Yeah. So huge strides on many different levels of society and culture have been made over the last 50, 60 years. But comparatively, if you look at where we are now, we've slipped way back. Comparatively, I say. Comparatively.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really would. It's disturbing. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
And there are times when, like you said earlier, we have to speak and we have to say, hang on, no, this is not right. Tony's just said, I think me and Eunice should stand. We have put the world to rights.
Is that Tony or is that Mum?
Oh,
I know Mum's.
Yes. Oh, it's Mum's Facebook user.
Yeah,
yes.
Mum's Facebook user. Yeah, that sounds about right. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Everyone on here would be part of my cabinet.
Yeah.
Pick your jobs. Just let's lighten things up a little bit. If I ever were, what would you want to do as your office in my cabinet? What would be your preferred role? That's a good one. I think Jen, because I know Jen quite well and I know her history, she could be working with Daniel in education, because I know, or Jen, you could be scientific development. Daniel wants to be in education. Cherry, because you live in France, you could be the foreign secretary.
Yeah.
Now I've got to say, my newest friend Mavis, based on our conversation on Monday, you can be in charge of education of technology and development. This is me and Mavis met on Monday, and I am in awe of her because she has a library that has no computers in it. It is just what it's supposed to be, proper blooming books.
Wow.
And I love it. So you can be in charge of technology, and then you can keep it in check for us. Oh, Jen wants to be health secretary.
Okay. Eunice wants PR.
That would be awesome.
Paul wants families.
Family, yeah, absolutely. Oh yes, the drinks cabinet. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. I think we'd all be in that meeting. Yes, we need a health secretary.
Yeah. If you could take the sport,
we've got a health secretary there. So.
Yeah, culture and media. I'll do culture and media. If you take the sport off of me, that's somebody else.
Can you be the leader of the opposition? Do you know what? We'd get a lot more done if you were. Iron Bruce, so you can be commerce and commerce and enterprise.
Mum would be the cleaner.
Mum would be the cleaner. Cherry, I think, as I said, Cherry, I think you should be the foreign secretary, and then you could jump back and forwards between France to your heart's content. Yeah, so that is all. Well, yes, we would definitely need a department for cross-dimensional relations.
Yes. John wants to be Department of Defence or Degate.
Absolutely. A lot of cheese and wine parties. That's what's got the current lot in problems.
That's it.
You want health and safety? You can have health and safety, Cherry. No one's going to argue with you on that one. So yeah, it's always important to bring things back up a little bit, especially when we've had such a heavy debate. There's a lot of people interested in cheese and wine. I think this is where things went wrong on the last lot.
I think it is. Yeah.
So be careful of that. Put some restrictions on it, please.
No sneaking it in a suitcase.
No. Wow. This I want to know more about. Mavis has just said, I could tell everybody a few stories about how customers bringing technology into my library. I can only be imagining what kind of response they got, my darling, and I want to hear more.
Me too.
John Parry, Minister of Funny Walks after John Cleese. Yeah, Ministry of Funny Walks. Wow, that goes back. Changing the subject and bringing in a little bit of a lighter note. Did you hear that they're actually planning on doing a remake, redo, updated version of Fawlty Towers?
No.
Yeah, there is a script in. The process. Sadly, of course, because of Sybil's actress's health condition, she's been written out of it, which is a shame. But she's earned a retirement, bless her heart. So but yeah, they're coming up with a few bits and pieces to do a one last hurrah. I mean, yeah, the reboots were in different countries. They tried to export it to different countries, and it just
very peculiarly British, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and very specifically peculiarly British. And there's some really, really good actors that were involved in those reboots that that really just didn't cut it because it just didn't work. I think it's because Cleese has actually moved to America. So Fawlty has got a relative who's moved to America, so it's that kind of thing. You wonder whether it will be. But you got to also remember that actually 50% of the writing staff was indeed American. So she obviously, well, being married to John Cleese, she obviously got the British humour, or at least learnt to tolerate it. Yes, you're right. They did try that with Crossroads, and it didn't work. Bless you.
No.
One, because it's now 15:15, and it is time for us to wrap up. I apologise if you wanted to get onto other topics that we didn't, but the fact that you guys continued the conversation meant that we were going in the direction that you were happy to go, at least. But I've got to share one final little story from me, at least, relating to the political thing and why I would never become a politician. When I was in my 20s, I sat in an office with a group of people, and it was a big round table kind of thing. And the boss always used to get the Sun newspaper placed on his desk of a morning before everybody came in. And I was usually like second or third to arrive. And it was at the same time that the Labour Party had a minister called Nick Brown.
Okay.
And I walked in one morning and saw that the paper had actually been placed on the desk, my desk, because the Sun headline for that particular day is Nick Brown is gay. The irony is I wasn't out at the time, but it was indeed the truth. But because of that headline, I would never do politics. But yeah, they put it on my desk thinking it was funny, but when in actual fact it was just the truth. Like for instance, when I came out to my friends and one of my mates, it was back in the WKD advert times, there was they said, "Oh Nick, you got something on your heel," and I looked around and my heel went up, and it went, "Oh, suits you," so like the WKD advert. "Oh, hello, sailor." And I just leaned over and went, "It's only funny if you say it's to a straight person." And that was how I came out to my friends. So yeah, just a few funnies because we need it.
And Paul, yes, you'll see me later. I'm on it. Signs of the Afterlife at 7:30. Paul,
yes. Yeah.
Oh, and you're on tomorrow. Fabulous. I shall be watching.
Yeah. So Signs of the Afterlife tomorrow, and of course tonight with your good. You did say tonight for your good self.
Tonight, yes.
Yeah, and absolutely. Are we not here to right wrongs in love? Perfect.
Brilliant. Couldn't have said that better myself.
And just a very brief update. I was very strict but kind. Under no circumstances computers are allowed. I had to get my stick out at one point. Well done, Dole. Yeah. Well done.
Yep, you put your foot down with a firm hand, love.
Oh dear. And I wasn't even a cabinet secretary, but there you go. Tony, thank you for sharing your afternoon with me.
It's been a joy.
And everyone here, and thank you all for sharing the afternoon with us, and thank you for listening to me get on my soapbox, as rare as it is.
But sometimes you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, thank you all for your time and your words, for your engagement, and that thing we started with that Tony mentioned right from the get-go, that feeling of community that we share on this show, this page, this group. Of course, it's banner time. Should you wish to continue the debate, you can on facebook.com/groups/2Revs, where we called the page Continue the Debate. You can continue discussing on the comment pages that are here that you've been commenting on, or indeed on that Facebook page. Chat with us, talk with us, engage with us and each other, because that is the only way we can make a difference in this world. But from me, thank you all, friends, and of course thank you to my fellow minister. I would like to end by asking everyone to continue sending your healing thoughts out to our compadre and colleague, Reverend Alan Sutton. Please continue with those healing thoughts to our colleague and friend, who's in great need of your healing thoughts at the present time. So please continue to do that, because healing is genuinely where it all makes a difference.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. And yes, thank you, everybody, and we shall see you next Friday.
Yes, it will soon come around quick, won't it?
Oh, yes, it did this week.
Didn't it just?
I got your message and I thought, with the link, and I thought, wow, it's earlier. No, it's actually Friday morning.
Gonna say, and in actual fact, I think it was lunchtime when I sent it to you, so it was only 4 hours away then.
Yeah.
I will promise to be a bit more on the ball next week.
Okay. Okay.
But there we go. God bless to you all. God bless. So for now, it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him. Good night, everybody.
God bless.